So, Nicholas, can I start with you, and you can introduce yourself, and then we'll work our way down.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicholas. I'm Strategy and Outcomes Director for the Startup Loans Company. As some of you may know, the Startup Loans Company is a government-funded initiative to provide startup funding to people in the UK that want to start a business.
Hello everyone, my name is Bill. One of the reasons that people find me so compelling is that I'm an accountant and an investment banker, so I'm really, really interesting. I also founded Angel's Den, which is Europe's largest angel network. We have over 7,000 high net worths pestering us on a daily basis looking for stuff to invest into. And so I look forward to telling you what sorts of stuff they're keen to invest into and the small mistakes that the 140 people who apply to us every day make.
My name's Sam Barnett, and I'm the founder and CEO of Struck. Struck does cross-device retargeting for the world's largest retailers. We have offices in London, Berlin, New York, San Francisco, LA, and in Sao Paulo. I've raised one round of funding. I raised 10 million from Allen & Company, who underwrote and took Google public. We were the first European investment. Reed Elsevier, which are a global publishing house. Pentec, who are a Scottish fund, and the CEO of Palantir Technologies, who just raised money at about a $9 billion valuation.
Bit cheap, Sam.
Hi, I'm David de Koning. I'm the head of communications at Funding Circle. We're the world's leading peer-to-peer lending platform for small businesses. So any business that's at least 2 years old access finance directly from a pool of about 30,000 individual investors and a number of organisations, including British government, a load of county councils, and a number of institutions as well. We launched in 2010, and we've done about 280 million of lending so far.
Great. David, can I start with you? What does a typical successful applicant look like to Funding Circle?
So there are a broad spectrum of businesses, is the first thing to say. There are some minimum criteria that businesses need to meet to go onto our platform. That is, they need to be at least 2 years old. They need to have a minimum turnover of in and around £100,000. And then they are kind of credit assessed by our internal credit assessment policies. So, what a business looks like, can be anything from a manufacturer through to a retailer, from an online business through to transport and logistics. We very much follow the national average in terms of sector diversification and also region as well. So a fairly broad mix.
And for what kind of companies, not necessarily in terms of the industries, but at what point does Funding Circle become a viable option for a small business, let's say, as opposed to going to a bank? And what are the benefits?
We would firstly say that we're in direct competition with a bank, and we'll kind of make no bones about that. And we think we fundamentally offer a better product as well. A bank offers a variety of different products to businesses, and some are relevant and some are not. And we've taken one kind of core aspect of what a bank does, and we seek to do it, focus all of our attention on that and to do it better. And that means that rather than waiting, 6 to 12 weeks for your application to be reviewed by a bank manager, we can do it in 48 hours, and typically the money's in your account in 2 weeks. So, the reason we can do that is essentially because we're an online business as well. We don't have hundreds of branches across the UK. We've stripped out all of that complexity, and we're bringing thousands of investors who are lending money directly to businesses. So it's a new way of doing it, and I think because of the fact it's new, because of the fact we've plugged it into the internet, it means it's way more efficient, and the cost of pass on to businesses and investors.
Great, thank you. So for those of you in the audience who are a little bit further down the line, I think Funding Circle is definitely a great option. I sit on the SME board of one of the big banks, and we were actually talking about you the other day. And and actually it was all very complimentary. And the big thing that everybody was focused on was the fact that the service that you provide for customers and being able to turn a decision around in 48 hours is something that all the banks should aspire to. I think it'll be a very long time before they're able to do it because they just have legacy issues. But I think the fact that as a customer, if you can apply for a loan and within 48 hours know whether it's been approved or not, and then have that money in your account within 2 weeks, is hugely beneficial when you're trying to actually run the business.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I think even if we can't help you, if you're a business who comes to us, then we pride ourselves on being able to say, a quick no. And if it is an unfortunate no, then we'll try and direct you off to other places that might be suitable. Because for us, it's a complete no-brainer. I mean, it's the uncertainty that we find that small business owners get frustrated about the most. It's the not knowing, is this happening, is this not happening? And that's the thing that means, well, do I need to put kind of, this next big deal on hold because I don't know where the finance is coming from? So if you can sort out the uncertainty quickly, then I think it's a relief to all business owners.
Great, thank you. Can I grab that? Nicholas, can I bring you in here? Because you're at the very start of the spectrum. Very specifically, the clue is in the title, startup loans. So can you tell us, obviously Smarta is in partnership with Startup Loans. So we've worked with Nicholas on providing startup loans to lots of small businesses just like you guys. And I think it's a phenomenal initiative, but still not necessarily enough people know about it, or they don't know all the kind of ins and outs, whether it's relevant for them. And again, kind of a similar question, what does a good applicant look like to you?
This is a government-funded initiative, so the government's interested in lots of things. Obviously, creating jobs, creating economic value, creating businesses that pay their taxes, and also upskilling individuals that come through the scheme as well. So I wouldn't say we have a perfect applicant, but we're obviously very interested in any businesses that come through that are going to create lots of employment, grow fast, upskill their workforce and do very well. And we've got lots of examples of that. So we are conscious that we want to focus on areas that need help more than others. So maybe areas of deprivation or areas with high unemployment, to making sure that we're providing finance and support where it's needed most.
And just to be clear, Startup Loans really is for people who are starting out. So do you want to just explain exactly what the criteria are? So in the same way that with Funding Circle, you have to have been in business for 2 years, almost the opposite is true.
Yeah, so our criteria is very, very simple. We're now able to support anyone that's based anywhere in the UK of any age that wants to start a business. So if you've been trading 12 months or less, and you want to start a business, then you can come to Startup Loans to get the finance in the form of a loan, support in the form of mentoring, training, support from your peers as well. The max amount under the scheme is 25,000, and it's at an interest rate of 6% over 5 years. So very good terms, very reasonable terms, and hopefully gives you the support that you need to start a business.
And if anybody is interested, just speak to any of the Smarta team who'll be more than happy to help talk you through what that process looks like. And again, very much like Funding Circle, we really aim to make that process as quick and as painless as possible, because we know how much time it takes to be running your businesses. You don't want your time to be tied up in paperwork. Now, Bill, you're kind of a little bit more down the line in terms of the types of businesses that you typically see. Equally, there's probably no such thing as a typical customer who comes to Angel's Den. But over the years, what are the standouts for you when you're looking at businesses to invest in? When you think, okay, that's definitely got the kind of core criteria that we're looking for, and that definitely hasn't?
It's actually quite straightforward. What we're doing is equity funding. So just to explain, I'm nicely sandwiched between people who are giving loans, that is, you have to pay the money back. With equity funding, you get to keep the money, but of course the downside is that you give up a proportion of your company in exchange. So kind of like that BBC Two television program I can't bring myself to mention, but these are reasonable people taking an equity stake. The kind of companies that work are companies that have already proven their business model. That is, they've sold something to someone who isn't their mum, and that they can prove that that is sustainable. So it wasn't just lucky that they've actually managed to sell something, they've actually got that, and they can prove that. Now, being entrepreneurs, you will have run out of money, and you'll only come looking for money, and once you really need the money as well, because that's the kind of people that you are. And that's fine. They kind of like that as well. But as long as you can prove that you've a track record of taking 100 and making it 120 previously, then they would invest. The second thing that you need is passion. Your passion absolutely has to shine through. So we see, as I say, an average of 140 companies a day, some of which are going to give 100 times return, and some of which, but they're really, really, really boring people. They have, they're a completely attention deficit. They scratch themselves where they shouldn't scratch. They don't make eye contact. They've got clammy hands. They've got underarm deodorant problems. They've got dandruff problems. They will never, ever, ever get funded through equity funding. It's not going to happen. Somebody else who is going to make 2 to 3 times money but shines, their passion absolutely shines through, is going to win 99 times out of 100, because that's why the angels are looking to invest. And you can talk to me about it later. We spent far too long finding out why angels look to invest. But the third thing is tied up with that. You have to have communication skills. So we meet, say, in London. We have offices in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, right across the Middle East, just opened up in Mexico, and it's exactly the same problem, exactly the same proportion. The most difficult question we ask when we meet people, 36% of people fall out at this killer question. It is, Sue, lovely to meet you. Tell me about your business. 36% of people fail to be able to explain to an idiot like myself what they do. Geeks, pathologically incapable almost of almost incapable of explaining in simple terms what it is that they do. Academics, similarly. They're stuck in books. They're almost autistic in their communication skills. Once again, you will not get funded.
No vast generalizations or anything.
No, absolutely not.
So
I better be quiet.
So, Sam, I just have to say, Sam, you don't seem to have any BO issues, so I'm quite pleased about that. He hasn't been doing any scratching. You look like you've showered, so you clearly don't fall under any of Bill's categories. So could you tell us, from this very unusual perspective that you have of not being any of those things, about your funding journey? Because did you start going straight in and raising all that money from a VC?
No, so I didn't have, prior to us raising money from a VC, we didn't have any debts or angel backers in us. I actually started the business on a debt that was owed to me. So I was trained, I went to university, studied law, I went to law school, and I hated it. But after a while, I got involved in advertising. And when I decided I was going to start a business, the only skill that I had that could generate cash was my ability to do legal work. So one of my mates ran a startup. It's this really terrible web design agency. And he said, Sam, listen, if you do all our legal work, we'll pay you £2,000 for it. I thought, yes. That means with £2,000, I can afford to pay my mortgage and I could potentially hire somebody. I mean, this was very naive. So off I went and I hired somebody and I thought, I'm going to start my business. I've got £2,000. Someone's going to, pay me. Obviously, he was going to pay me 30 days from the delivery of the work. I delivered the work, resigned that day, thinking he'd pay me in 30 days' time. Anyway, so the day came when I started the business, and it was the day for collection. I said to Gareth, I need the money. And he said, no, Sam, none of our clients have paid us. I haven't got any either. I was like, you must be kidding. So I started the business on this debt that was owed to me that wasn't bloody paid for about another 5 months. And so I went through a phase of I was 24 when I started. I had no idea that all these people with all these special offers existed, and there were different ways to raise money. So the only way I knew to survive was to make money. So I went through lots of different paths to make money to survive. So we went through a very rapid process of building products, seeing whether people would buy them. If they did, we'd sell them. And then we'd build them afterwards. So we went through what would be called, will you buy this? Yes. Okay, excellent. We'll try and build it. And we went through that process very, very rapidly. And eventually we got to a process where we actually could build something that's sustainable and repeatable, which generated cash for us. But I had no idea that all these options were available. By the time we raised money, we were a very profitable business growing extraordinarily quickly.
Thank you. You don't sound like any of those people that Bill just described.
Bill talks a lot of...
No, he doesn't.
But the thing is, I absolutely don't advise doing that. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? Actually setting up a business selling shit and then using that to fund your business. And this is just selling stuff. That's just alchemy. I mean, everybody needs funding, especially funding circle money.
Okay, guys, can we have have we got the mics? So who has some questions around funding? Hands up those of you who are currently interested in funding your business one way or another. It could be a personal, a bank loan, could be funding circle, crowdfunding, angel. Great. Okay. No. So hands up who has a question for the panel. Behind you.
Hi, my question is about equity. I'm launching a startup and I've got 2 angel investors who are interested in investing in me through SEIS. That's for this year. For next year, I'll probably need to raise a second round of funding. And trying to get to understand how much equity to release in exchange for a certain amount of funding is really confusing to me.
Yeah, no, it's confusing for everybody. So of the much mentioned 140 businesses that we see a day, the one thing I can tell with any certainty is that all 140 of them are valued wrongly. The only valuation for a business, much like my house, is not so much how much I want to get for my house, but how much some mug is willing to pay me for my house. And so it's a world of complete subjectivity. But however, it was actually a trick question, because in many ways, you need to work out how much money you need. And that is, that's easy for me to sit up here in my big chair thing, looking down upon you and say, like, you must know how much money you need. But never having been there before, it's actually quite difficult. And then you have some estimation of what your peers are actually gaining money on, or what you got in the first round. Presumably, it's not going to be a down round, so it's going to go up somewhere along that. Our average deal, if that means anything at all, is £203,000 for an 18% stake. Now, I might have been an accountant, but I was a really crap accountant, and I can't work it back. But that means the businesses are worth sort of 800, 900,000 on average, whatever that means. And it's complete subjectivity depending on your angels, on whatever. If you want to talk to me after, I can value any business in 4 seconds. That's what makes me such an interesting person. But seriously, it's just a wonderful skill that I've got.
I think, so I'll answer this question in 2 ways. One was the way that I raise money, and I've also subsequently invested into another business who are raising an angel round. And so I think your ability to raise money successfully is dependent upon how much leverage you have. Leverage is created by, one, is how compelling a story you can create. Secondly, is about how many people you can get to the table to compete for a deal, so you create desire. Those 2 things have, people can subsequently use those things to, increase valuations significantly. So I invested in an angel round from somebody that I know very well, but that was an angel round that was hefty single millions. But because this guy had done a great thing, and I knew him for a long time, which was he created a compelling story, had great demand for it, and so people competed for it. I mean, it was as simple as that. When I raised money, I was also told, always ask for more money than you need. I thought, what bullshit? And investors are really smart. They're going to see through this. They know that I don't need that much money, and we raised a lot of money. So, people were telling me I should raise 15 or 18. So I don't need that much money. But one of the things I can certainly say in hindsight is raise as much money as you can and raise more money than you think you need. Because when push comes to shove, you want enough money for your B plan, right? So I think my words of advice are raise more money than you need and create a plan and a story that justifies it. Secondly, just create leverage. All in, and I'm on the side of the entrepreneur, not everybody else who sits on the other side of the fence, which is create leverage, because once you negotiate those terms, you can never get it back. You'll never get that equity back, right? And that's important. And as you grow and scale, especially at this early stage, you start handing over chunks of your company. By the time you get to Series B,
you'll have nothing left.
Bugger all. Yeah. Bugger all. And so then for me, why did you even bother? So I shouldn't say that for those people who have done that. So think hard about that, Think hard about that. Negotiate hard, create leverage,
And
don't give up anything.
one of the best ways you can create leverage is doing exactly what Sam did, which was he actually created a business, demonstrated that there was a need for it, had a track record, sold the products. So it's interesting when people go and look for funding. And, we can all cite lots of companies, particularly out in the US, who are pre-revenue, who are raising money at very high valuations. But the most successful ones, even those that are pre-revenue, are clearly demonstrating high demand for the product or the service. So trying to raise money, and particularly equity, on a product or a service that is yet to be launched, that has no traction and no customers, is almost impossible. You will end up giving away far too much of your business that you don't want to. It's much better to put in the hard work and the hustle and spend 6 months selling to customers, proving that you have traction, proving that you have a product or a service that is worthwhile. Because when you then go in to raise money, you raise it at a higher valuation, you keep more of your equity, and you have the crucial thing that Sam mentioned, you have leverage. Any other questions? Who's got the mic? Sophie's got the mic. Who's got a question about funding? Come on, guys. All of you are interested. Don't be shy. Lady at the back.
Hello. I recently successfully got some funding for startup from the startup loans. And based on a business model which was going to be starting at a smaller base and building up. But I now realized that I need to ramp things up quite quickly to get to the retailers. This is for Funding Circle. I don't know how you look at people who've just got startup loans, whether, how can I approach?
I think the key criteria there, I'll let David come in, but if you haven't been trading for 2 years, then you're not going to be eligible. Right. So I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, unfortunately that is the case, and to give context as to why we have 2 years as a barrier, it's essentially that for any business we credit assess that business by the ability to look at data. So essentially we need to have at least 2 years worth of accounts or records that we can see some sort of kind of track record of your business. Once we have that, then it gives us a much better opportunity to properly be able to credit assess your business. So there will be businesses in between us and startup loans, which I think is the most important thing to say. And there are numerous platforms out there who will be able to help. So there's something called the Alternative Business Funding.co.uk, which is an independent site which has a number of players such as ourselves who are all kind of non-banks who will refer on businesses that they can't help. And I think the idea here is that we're aware that we're a pretty fast-growing company and we're doing quite well in terms of growing awareness. But the reality is there's 5 million businesses out across the UK, and a minute amount will have actually heard of Funding Circle, and trust me, an even smaller amount have actually used us. So what we're trying to do is, if a business we can't help for whatever reason, potentially such as your situation, and if we can help direct you into other forms of financial provider who might be better sourced, then that's a great thing, because it's a good chance that hopefully you'll come back to us in 3 or 4 years' time, and then we can help you then.
Okay, and there are other companies like a Crowdcube, for example, who are kind of like a merge of different options. So where Funding Circle is peer-to-peer lending, Crowdcube is peer-to-peer equity, so taking the angel's den, but instead of having a few high net worths invest, you may have a much bigger audience. So what's the benefit for something like that? Well, I've seen some quite successful fundraising through those types of platforms where, again, a company has had traction already to start with. I can think of 2 companies who are in the F&B, the food and beverage space, where they've already got loyal customers who love their product. And therefore, when they go to raise money on a crowd platform, let's say they want to raise 100,000, for example, they already know that they've probably got 25,000 of that their own customers will actually invest because they're their biggest fans. So you have to think about what all your different options are. But I think one of the most important things at whatever stage you're going through is your business plan, to really clearly demonstrate what your business is, what it does, and how you're going to generate revenue. And it's the story that you are able to tell around that. I mean, Nicholas, from your perspective, what do you think are the biggest mistakes that people make when they are filling in their business plans?
I think you've got to understand what the market is for your product. You need to properly articulate what your product does, who it's for, how it works, how you're going to deliver that product or that service, and just really understand and be able to articulate what the market demand is going to be for your product or service. So who's going to buy it? Are they going to buy it at the price you want to sell it at? What does that customer look like? Is it a business? Is it an individual? So really understanding the market, but from both sides as well. So not just from your customer, but what are your competition doing as well? What's the alternative? What are other people going to consider when they're looking at your product or your service? So I think that's the crucial thing for me, is really getting into the detail and understanding your product and service, and then making sure you've really thought about the market demand and the market supply.
Great, thank you. Bill, you are probably more likely than anyone else on the panel to hear the stories that people weave around their businesses. I know just from my own limited experience that I've seen some really amazing businesses fall because the founder can't tell the story in a way that engages the people on the other side.
Excuse me. Yep.
What tips would you have? What tips would you have for the audience if they're thinking about pitching their business to potential investors or even to their local bank manager, wherever you have to have a face-to-face interaction? What tips would you give them to be able to concisely explain what their business does and tell their story in a way that engages somebody?
I love all the points that Nicholas came out with, and I think he's sort of nailed the vast majority of them. The one prerequisite in actually understanding those things, and perhaps one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make, is getting someone else to write your business plan for you. Now, there are people out there that will charge you thousands of pounds very gratefully to write your business plan. And what we and our 7,000 angels consider is that if you can't write your own business plan, you're dead. You're completely dead in the water. You'll never get funding because that's the easy bit. That's the easy bit compared to actually running a business. Writing your own business plan then means that you need to know all of the things that Nicholas suggested. So what are your competitors doing? Who is your target market? What are they going to sell? What's the margin on your business? Are you B2B, B2C? All those really crap questions that I used to love asking people as an accountant. But you you need to understand the metrics of those business. Then understanding that, you put it to one side. 9 times a month across the planet, we hold pitching events. 9 a month. We have an average of 8 people pitching, and the way that we do it is that we give people 4 minutes to pitch. We have 8 tables, 1, 2, 3 investors. You sit down, you pitch for 4 minutes, you get up, move to the next table. People go, oh no, you don't understand. My business is so special that I couldn't possibly condense it down because I'm so special myself, completely and utterly missing the point. Going back to what I said previously, it's about being able to get your passion and your communication skills across, and that you come across as a pleasant person. Because nobody wants to get into bed with an entrepreneur who is argumentative, has attitude, scratches himself, does whatever. That's the sad truth of it. Even if you're going to make 100 times return, it isn't going to happen at the angel funding stage. VCs, they're just in it for the money. That's cool. Forget that. You have to communicate your passion and your essence across. And it's not difficult. But what some of our angels say is that they have made their mind up as you're walking towards them. You're a woman. Who's going to invest in a woman? You're a man. Who's going to invest in a man? You're wearing glasses. Why are you looking at me? You look like your mum dressed you in the dark this morning. What is going on? Why are your hands clammy? Do you have a business card? Because I'd kind of like one now. Too late. You're dead. You're dead. You're the wrong color. You're the wrong size. You're wearing whatever. You're dead. It comes down to crap like that. As much as the business, because we super select the people that go forward, they kind of presume that we're good at doing what we do. So all the businesses are going to make money. It's then about choosing which one they want to do. Because the relationship you have with your investor is longer than some of my marriages. Quite a lot of my marriages, yeah, I know.
So, how many have you had?
I can't remember. But it's seriously, you're in it for 34, 35 months on average before you're looking to exit, or you buy the shares back. So it's about communicating the essence, but it's about really understanding your product, but getting that across in a way that shows your humanity. And then you reverse the tables, because the average person that pitches has over 3 angels interested. Then you ask the angel, what are you bringing to the table? I need bang, bang, bang. Do you have whatever, accountancy skills or marketing skills or SEO skills, or I need contacts in golf clubs? Do you have that? No, I don't. Well, actually, do you mind? I'll move on to somebody else. But it's about that relationship, and you cannot overplay that. It's not necessarily about the numbers. As I say, the guy that's giving you 100 times return isn't 100 times more favorable than the guy that's giving you 1 times return, and might get your money back, but it's going to be fun. Every time, the one that says, I'm going to make you 100 times your money, but we have a board meeting above a chip shop in Solihull every month, and we sit there for 7 hours. Or, I'm not too sure how much money I'm going to make, but we have a board meeting every 2 months. It lasts exactly an hour. It goes down the Thames on a boat. We draw lots. One of us gets stark bollock naked, and we jump over the side. Most of the time, the angels are going to go for that. Now, I'm slightly exaggerating, but you get the gist. It's about your personality and about how you come across at the £200,000 level.
So if we flip this, Sam, and we go to look at your story, where you had already built a successful business, so you were in a position, Bill, can I grab your mic for Sam? Well, you were in a position where you had choice, right? So what made you choose the funding partners that you did?
So actually, go back. I knew Bill before I raised money, when actually we were probably angel-sized business, and that kind of the point that was raised earlier. I thought long and hard about trying to raise angel money, and actually there was a point when I thought I should do this. This is what you're told to do, right? The natural path is, angel, raise Series A, raise Series B, and then off you go. And I was like, why am I doing this? And I think that it's a good question to stop and ask yourself, why are you doing this? And a lot of the European investors really invest with shitty terms for entrepreneurs, really heavy downside protection. And I said, I don't think this is going to be right for us. And we went to the US, and we found somebody that was actually going to be on the terms that suited us, and somebody I liked. And actually, I landed up doing the deal, the lead investor, for a sizable amount of money in the pub. So beforehand, initially we thought about hiring a banker. God, never do that, by the way. So we thought about hiring a banker. They'll write you an information memorandum. They'll write your business plan, all this shit. Don't need any of that. And what transpired is true what Bill says. People do just buy you. I had all this documentation prepared, and ultimately it was me having a pint with Kevin, and he said, "You know what, Sam, I'll do the deal." And I was asking for very aggressive terms, like really aggressive, in favor of the business. He was like, "Yeah, I'll do the deal." And what I wanted were people that I got on with. Lots of investors are like Bill, very stiff and dull. But I wanted somebody that, when the times were tough, they'd stand by me too. So I'd spoken to a lot of the CEOs of their portfolio. I wanted somebody that I could go and have a drink with. So it wasn't just a formal relationship where we turn up to board meetings in suits and ties and some other dull attire scattered around. I wanted a good relationship with somebody that was good, smart, was very well connected, and can help us grow in the US. But truthfully, I know lots of entrepreneurs, and my primary reason for choosing Kevin wasn't that he was a great bloke and everything else. It was the terms that I could raise money on. I mean, I wouldn't care if, because of my situation where I still control the board and still control the company, those are the things that were paramount to me. If another guy said, "Look, I can open up contacts here, here, and here, and here, and I need an extra X% of the business, and I need these kind of controls," there'd be no way I'd do it. Because I think sometimes when you're a young business, you just think, "Oh, this isn't that valuable, I can just give away this equity." But as you grow, you realize that equity is really worth something, and you should hold on for that for as long as possible. And as Felix Dennis said, you should fight, kick, scratch, bite to hold on to every percentage point.
Yeah, for those of you, do you remember what Felix's book is called? It's something about rich. He's got a great book that you should all read. It's something about get rich or how to get rich. Yeah. It's a great book where he talks about his. So Felix Dennis was the founder of Dennis Publishing. They did all the lads mags that were very successful in the 90s. They've branched out. He's he actually would probably make Bill look like Mother Teresa if you ever do an event with him. So he's a very colourful character. So I would really recommend reading that for your funding options. I know that at Smarta, when we talk about funding, what we tend to find is for most people, and it depends on the nature of your business, right? So for Sam, in a high-tech space, it's very easy to scale very quickly. But when you're in a more service industry base, or you're swapping your time for money, or it's more of a traditional business, then often going the route of funding circle, of taking out loans that you know that you can pay back, is a much more preferable route to actually taking or giving away equity for investment. But equally, I know that some of the most successful businesses, I mean, we founded Smarta through a series of high net worth individuals. And for me, it was very much about, do these people bring more to the table than just money? Because all money is not created equal. And I think this was a point that Bill was making from the investor's side. But it's also true from the person who's looking for the investment. You know, if you're going to have to spend the next few years with these people on your board, you have to think very carefully about whether you want them and whether they're going to be there if the shit hits the fan, and how you're going to be able to deal with them in those times of crisis, if you do have any. But beyond that, you've got to think to yourself, what else can they bring other than money to the table? And so I think that's really important. And I think Bill's absolutely right. It's like a marriage. It's a long-term relationship, even through to the exit strategy. And the more control that you can keep, like Sam has, so making sure that your rights allow you to sell the business at the points where you feel it's right, rather than being beholden to an investor who holds your, feet to the fire and makes you stick it out or makes you sell too early. So with hindsight, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but when you're starting out, these are quite important things for some of you to think about. For others, you'll be thinking, well, I never want to exit. This isn't that type of a business. This is just something that I love doing, and I want to build it up. I want it to be profitable, and I want to make money. And I think the point of this panel is to really demonstrate that it doesn't really matter what type of business that you're in, there is a funding option for you. So no matter where you're headed or where you're at right now, there will be a relevant funding model for you. It just depends on making sure that you approach the right one. Bill, did you have something to say?
Yes. I'm a bit nervous now. Stick with me. No, I was just going to say, we funded some companies for a fifth and a sixth time. Just backing up what Shaa was saying, is that what they said was that the first round was really groovy, the money was really, really cool. But then it's about the mentorship that the angel brings, because nothing concentrates a high net worth's mind more than putting your own money into something. It's about the contacts that they actually bring to the table. So, I've just played golf with the sales director of Tesco. Would that be an interesting contact? Oh, God, yes. So, the money could be worth 100, but it's the contacts that are worth 1,000. And then it's the mentorship, the contacts, and just their business experience. So they're an average of, 54, 55 years old. They've been there, seen it, and done it. They hopefully will be able to bring specific experience to your market. And they know that, you need to go 5.5 months down that path. Then you turn right, ask for Alfie, give a wink, and then that moves on. And that's just what works. And in terms of having the money, and I think, I'm not a great fan of crowdfunding equity, in terms of 236 people investing into your business, because you don't get that. You're giving away the equity, which is the bad thing, but you're only getting the money. And I think on some of the platforms, you're starting to see companies going under now that just got the money. It's not about the money. The great thing about startup loans is that it comes with a mentor. And that is the really essential thing. At the moment, we get 140 people applying to us a day who, on the whole, just want the money. And in some cases, we're CrowdCube's biggest referrer. You just want the money? Seriously? Then, go to these guys and you'll just get the money. But that's not what's going to keep you guys in business. What's going to keep you in business is the mentorship and the contacts and the business experience that comes with the money. So at the startup range, that's the great thing about startups. Sure, they've got money, but the money ain't the difficult thing. We see 400 angels a day, 400 people with £250,000 minimum to spend. Getting you the money is no problem at all. Getting you the money, finding a connection with an angel who's going to move your business forward and keep you in the ecosystem, actually keep you sustainable, that's the secret.
I think that's very true. We certainly find at Smarter, with the Smarter Startup Loans, that our mentoring, the mentoring aspect of that program has been hugely successful. And we work closely with Bill, and Bill often refers people across to us. And I mean, you can say this in your own words, but Bill just said to me that one of the reasons why he prefers recommending people across to us than maybe other providers is because of the simple fact we might all be able to offer the same loan because we all work with startup loans, but actually it's the quality of the mentoring. And it's the quality of that mentoring when you're first starting out that can often be the difference between success and failure. And having a good mentor who can flag up in advance when you might be about to make a mistake and help you avoid those mistakes is, I think, crucial. I mean, from your perspective, Bill, what do you see in terms of the success rates when people have mentors and they don't?
It's kind of like running a horse race without the horse. I think, the businessman, the angel, the advisor, the mentor is the person that's been there, seen it, and done it. And sure, you'll get round the course, but it's going to be so much easier and so much more chance of winning if you've actually, it's a really bad metaphor, drop that one, yeah, so shit. But across the world, we're sponsored by the Singapore government, we're sponsored by the Hong Kong government, we're sponsored by the Qatari government to help them set up not an angel network, although we do, but a mentor network. Because mentors are such a key part of the ecosystem. And one of the things you can do really badly, really easily, is mentor. So badly. And you can mess up a company quite effectively by bad mentoring. And the biggest mistake you can make as a mentor is to bring your ego to the table. It's not about you. It's so difficult for business people who want to be mentors to be able to give objective advice that is in your best interests, and to find those people really isn't easy. But that's what separates Smarter from other people in terms of the quality of their mentors that are coming to the table, because that's what's going to give you the differential to move forward.
Now, some of you will be thinking, I'm just starting up, that sounds perfect. Now, for others, I think where Funding Circle really comes into its own is that if you're the type of business who's at a stage where you typically go to a bank because you need to buy a new piece of equipment or machinery, or you need a loan because you want to take your cafe that's operating during the day. And this is quite an interesting one, which we had through a bank recently. A bank had a customer who had a very successful cafe. They were doing really well. They were profitable. And all they wanted to do was extend into the evening. They went to the bank, but they couldn't get any funding from the bank because the bank will remain nameless, but they couldn't get any funding despite the fact they had 3 years of trading record and they were profitable for the entire time. But because the bank's requirements right now are so restrictive, just that simple fact of taking a cafe and extending the opening hours was not possible. They weren't. They went to Funding Circle. I don't think they had to raise that much money. I think it was like £30,000 because what they had to do is apply for some extra licenses, and they had to get some more equipment, and they had to obviously change some of the decor, do a few. And immediately they were able to know that that was a viable option for them. So I think it's all about understanding your personal path. If you have a business like Sam's and it's very tech-focused and you think you have some fast traction and some growth, then my recommendation would be to really just knuckle down, put your head down, focus, prove that your model works, prove that you can get traction, prove that you can get customers. And in that old kind of hockey stick adage, I'm sure most of you have heard of that, you start off here. When you see that hockey stick effect, when the growth is exponential, at that point where you can prove that, that's when you want to go and start to raise money. Equally, if you just need you need some capital, you've been going for a couple of years, you need some capital to actually get you through to the next stage, and you don't want anyone investing in the business, all you want to do is you want a loan and to pay it back, then Funding Circle provides a great option. Likewise, for many of you in this room who are at the earlier stages of your journey, then I think startup loans is absolutely the perfect vehicle. And what we see more often than not is it's a journey. So people may start off with friends and family money. They may then all have a startup loan. They then use that to prove the traction in their business. Then at that point, they might go and take on some additional debt funding that they pay back. Or they then go to the high net worths, and then as they scale up, they might think, okay, now's the point when I want to get my Series A VC round funding. But it's all about your individual journey. And as you can see, what's great about this panel, I think, is that it's a real reflection of all the different types of funding that are available for you and your business. So I'm conscious of the time. Who has any questions that you'd like to ask before we break out into workshops? Anyone have any questions around funding for their business? Yep.
Hi there. I guess my question is for potentially Bill or Sam. For a start, Bill, from in terms of Angel's Den, is that I'm familiar with a lot of companies who do kind of similar kind of things. Is it a paid-for pitch? When you go to these events, you have to pay in advance to actually get access to them. And I know a lot of other companies just purely work on the basis of if you get the money, you have to pay a certain percentage.
Yeah, so it's £800 to pitch. It's like I planted you in the audience. At least you're not Scottish, because no one would believe that.
No, we can't have that. We can't have two Scotsmen, can we?
No, that's right. Yeah, so it's £800 to pitch. And £800, if my marketing director was here now, she would give you all the bullshit about why that is, and it's about we give you free legals at the end of it, which is, sort of saves you £8,000. We train you how to pitch. We bring you along to an event where over half the people get funded. Blah, 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 blah. The real reason we charge £800 is that if we don't, and we tried, people don't take it seriously. So if Chelsea are playing at home and you haven't paid to pitch, and we've got 40 investors sitting there at a time, so that's why, even though we see over 100 people willing to pay £800, we will take maybe 1 or 2 of them a day because we have to be super, super selective.